Good morning. Today is Monday, August the 27th, and this is Microeconomics. My name is Roger Strickland, and I am your instructor. How many of you were here last Wednesday? 3. Okay. This class meets Mondays, but another section meets on Wednesdays, same time, same place. And I invite you and encourage you all to make it to both classes if you possibly can. I've found that regular class attendance 2 days a week improves people's performance generally by about a letter grade. I'm going to teach the course as though it met Monday and Wednesday. So if you don't make it on Wednesday, I'm going to video the section, the class, and I'll post that on Canvas under announcements. Ideally, class is not where I lecture. The lecture takes place in the videos and the handouts and the quizzes that I ask you to read and watch before you come to class. Classroom time should be devoted to solving any problems, issues, or questions you have as a result of working on that material. So we'll see how that goes. If you have not seen it yet, I think the video for this class from last week would not upload, but I uploaded the macro video, which covers the basics on your 2 information sources for this course. Those 2 information sources are Canvas, the learning management system here at Santa Fe, and McGraw-Hill's Connect system, where you have to purchase an access code, and then using the web address for this course, which is here on the home page on Canvas, using this web address right here, you register for the Connect section with your access code, and that will take you then to the Connect page. Which looks something like this. This is from macro. Let me back. This is what your micro page will look like. Down here to micro fall 18. Eventually. These are your assignments to do with the Connect system. Starts out with a syllabus quiz, which is due to me by this Friday. So if you've not yet purchased your Connect materials, get it done. Get that syllabus quiz done. Also over on Connect, we'll show you in a minute, there's a student information sheet. I want you to download, fill it out, upload as an assignment. And that student information sheet is my basis for recording your attendance with the registrar and for whatever financial aid you may be receiving. So those are 2 things you want to get done pretty quick. Other than that, on LearnSmart, everywhere you see this LS, on Connect rather, LS is a LearnSmart assignment that has a due date, a deadline. The deadlines don't extend, so you want to get those LearnSmarts turned in on time. They're just basically a review of the chapter. They're not very difficult, but at least they let me know that you're spending some time seeing some of the information. After that are practice quizzes, as you see right here. A practice quiz, and while it only shows 1 time up there, is available for you to take as many times as you want. Every time you take a practice quiz, it'll give you 15 or 20 questions drawn from a pool of maybe 40. So the more often you take one of those practice quizzes, the more different questions you will see. My general guideline is you want to take 6 practice quizzes over each chapter before the exam. And do not try to take all of those quizzes the last few days before the exam. It's too much material to learn. Too much, too complex, won't happen. So space those out. This week I'd be taking 2 or 3 or 4 of them for chapter 3. Next week I'd take 3 or 4 more. When we get into chapter 5, I'd be taking some of those and going back and taking some more for chapter 3, constantly refreshing, being updated. I look at your Connect record. I don't have one. I'll bring one next time. I look at your Connect record at the end of the term, and I see if you've been doing the practice quizzes and the LearnSmarts. I see if you've been doing them in a timely fashion. That is, not all of them the night before the exam. I look to see if your grades are improving on those quizzes. I look to see when you take an exam, did you finish a 40-question exam in 7 minutes? Then I know you're just guessing, okay? And I look at all of your performance on Connect, particularly if you have a borderline grade. And if you're borderline between a B and a C and you haven't done a damn thing on Connect, you got a C. But if you've done every assignment conscientiously, on time, etc., you got a B. It can make that difference in your grade. Okay? So please pay attention to the Connect assignments. Let's go back to what's on Canvas for a minute. This is the home page for the course. And a couple of things to pay attention to. There's the web address to get registered for Connect once you get your access code. But then everything else happens under modules. And when you open up modules, you see the administrative docs, and this is the stuff that drives the course. This is the student information sheet you've got to download. You've got to fill it out. And once you get it filled out, save it as a document. Maybe. And go back under assignments and upload it as an assignment. That's how I will record your attendance. So that's the student information sheet. The syllabus is in here. The course schedule is big deal important. This is what the course schedule looks like. It shows you week by week the things you've got to do. Here are a list of videos. You cut and paste the URL and watch them. Here are some PowerPoints that are on Canvas. Here are some other things called appendices. Let me make this important point. Appendix A is your really first confrontation with some serious examination-like questions. It is 75 multiple choice questions on supply and demand. If you watched the PowerPoints, you've read the text a bit, you've gone through the little short quizzes, get into Appendix A, because then you are practicing for the exam. 75 questions. Your goal should be to finish Appendix A by Friday. Okay? Because next week we do some more supply and demand, but if you've gotten through Appendix A, that means you should be coming to class saying, hey, Strickland, I'm in Appendix A, I'm on question number 17. What the hell does it mean? Those are the kind of questions I want to have in the classroom. That's how we explain this stuff. You don't listen to me lecture. Okay, we solve problems. Appendix A, by Wednesday, if you can come to class, by Wednesday, have done at least 30 of those questions. Bring in the ones you don't understand. We'll walk through them. We'll see some examples today. Also, there are some readings for this course down here. The aha effect, stupid questions, all kind of stuff in here. You want to read those. Today is the 27th. This is assigned for today, so I would expect on Monday the 27th, you have finished all of this. Not that you are beginning it, but that you spent the weekend getting this ready to come to class on Monday. Okay? You go down the next week, it says, hey, you got 2 weeks to get all that stuff done, keep going. That's because there's a lot of stuff in there. There's not just Appendix A. There's Appendix B. There's Appendix C. A lot of questions to help you practice and get really good at answering these questions on an exam. Okay? So, between Connect and Canvas, there's always stuff to be done. Always stuff to be doing and catch up on. Anytime you find a question you're not sure of, snip it out. In the syllabus, there's an explanation of something called a snipping tool, kind of a screenshot of the question. Save it, bring it to class, send it to me, and let's solve those and make sure you're clear on them before the exam. Okay? Good. We do that. We got 4 exams. I think in this class the exams are all equally rated. And that's your grade. So you prepare and prepare and prepare. There's no such thing as being over-prepared, especially for that first test. But if you can be up on top of that and kill in the first test, life gets a lot easier. Okay? In addition to microeconomics, supply and demand. Yes, ma'am?
So all of that isn't like core grade, it's just for like practice for this?
The practice quizzes are just to practice with. I can promise you, though, if you don't do a lot of the practice, you won't do well on the exam. Okay?
So then there are no homework assignments?
The only homework assignment was that Learn Smart, the LS. It has a due date. You have to do that on Connect, and it'll submit it automatically. That's all. Okay? Now, you have one paper to write this term. You can read about it in the syllabus, at the end of the syllabus. It's called the Choices paper. I've been making that a paper on assignment for, I guess over 20 years now. The Choices paper. Let's chat about that for a minute. To me, economics is the study of what are you going to do with what you got. What you got is your life. What you got is your resources. If you count them up, 7 times 24, there's 168 hours in a week. What are you going to do with it? I don't know how much money you got, but what are you going to do with it? What other resources do you have? Your education, your experience, the people you know or who know you, right? These are your resources. What are you going to do with them? Because what you decide to do with them today is going to determine where you are in a year, 5 years, 10 years. And how you use those resources today is going to be very determinant upon the choices you can make in the future. You use your resources wisely, 5 years, 10 years from today, you're going to have a lot of things you can choose to do. If you simply waste those resources, 5 years and 10 years from today, you'll be struggling to make enough money to pay the rent and buy food. It's that simple. I know people my age today who made very poor use of their resources, made very poor decisions, and who are living basically on below poverty level fixed incomes for the rest of their lives. Some of the decisions we make when we are young are either going to open doors to our future or they're going to close them. So this course is a lot about not just microeconomics. Micro and economics in general is just a way of looking at the world. It's a set of terminology, some concepts that teaches you how to look at the world and say, how am I going to make this work for me? Because that's what it's about. And that's what I'm about. I'm not about microeconomics. I don't dream about micro at night. I don't wake up in the morning and get my first cup of coffee so I can read and breathe and dream about microeconomics. When I took microeconomics as a freshman in college down at the University of Florida, I thought it was the worst course taught by the most boring people God had ever put on this earth. And then I took macro and it got worse. I hated economics because it was taught to me as dry concepts that you had to memorize and vomit back on a test. Didn't teach me a damn thing about anything that mattered. I'm trying not to do that to you. Not until I finished my bachelor's degree, did 5 years in the Army, and came back to graduate school did I take an economics course where the instructor actually said, here's why this is relevant. And I fell in love with it. And so I stayed in graduate school. And I did another 30, 40 hours worth of graduate economics because it was good, useful tools to help me think about the world around me. And so that's what I'm trying to bring to you. Economics is not a religion. It's a toolbox. It's a way of looking at the world and taking advantage of it to your advantage. That's what we're going to talk about. So other than the microeconomic theory, you're going to find that when you get down into some of these readings, is that the readings? No, up here, some of the readings. Here's a reading. It says, your personal brand. What is a brand? What does the word brand mean? Is Ford a brand? Okay. What is a brand?
Something that represents you. It's a noun, whether it's a business or a symbol or something that represents the quality that you bring to the table in our offering.
I'm going to add one word because you're right. I'm going to add one word, perception. The brand, come in please. The brand is the perception of qualities that go with that company, that product, that person. We all have a brand. Brand is what people think of when they hear your name, or see your face. That's your brand. And you are creating it every moment of your life. Every time you're going out in public, you are working on your brand. And you're making it better or you're making it worse. You understand that? You have control over that brand. What kind of a brand do you want? That is, how do you want people to perceive you? How do you want them to think of you? Because when people think positively of you, they think you're a good person, a funny person, a capable person, a serious person, a competent person, then they think of you as well suited to that. But if they think of you as a clown, a goof-off, a failure, a distracted, immature, whatever, you are not suited for that. And you will not be discussed in those terms. That's your friends, that's your peers, that's your boss and his bosses or her bosses, okay? Your brand is something that occurs every waking moment of your life. And if you're not aware of it, you're apt to go down the road fairly ignorant with a terrible brand. When it comes time for promotion, you won't be considered. Okay? So I want you to think about your personal brand. Because I don't care if you like the idea or not, you got one. This is what people think of when they think of you. What does that have to do with microeconomics? Economics is the study of what are you going to do with what you got. Your brand is what you're doing with what you've got. And it's going to be a major determinant in your future. And how many doors open for you and how many doors close for you. Okay? Where are the very best jobs in the United States advertised? If you're graduating college, where would you look for the very best paying, most intrinsically rewarding jobs? Where are they advertised? Oh, there's a term in this class. When I ask you a question like that, I don't mean that to be rhetorical. Just think about it. I mean, give me an answer. And if you need to in your answer, go ahead and use the WAG system. That's okay. A WAG is a wild-ass guess. And that's okay. Okay? So where are the very best jobs advertised?
Beyond social media.
Beyond?
Personal contacts.
Beyond social media. The answer is they're not advertised. The best jobs are not advertised. So how important is a resume? You need a good one. It's what we call necessary, but it is not sufficient. Okay? Suppose I'm running a company. I got 100 employees. And Michelle has decided she's going to move to Hawaii. And she's the best employee I've got. She's the comptroller for my business, runs all the financials. I know she's leaving, and I need somebody really good to take her place. What happens if I put an ad out on Craigslist or Monster.com or something like that? What'll happen?
You're going to get everybody?
I'm going to get 10,000 applications from 10,000 people who are what? Losers. And I don't care about them. And I damn sure I can guarantee you this. I'm not reading through 10,000 resumes. I've got some serious fishing to do this weekend, and that ain't happening. So how do I find somebody to replace Michelle?
Recommendation?
From whom?
Colleagues.
Who?
Colleagues.
First thing I would do is I'd go to Michelle and say, look, you're the best I got. I know you're leaving. God love you. Good luck. Do you know anybody that you personally would recommend who has the abilities and the work ethic and the integrity to do as fine a job as you've done? That's where I'm going to start, okay? And if Michelle doesn't know you, guess what? You don't count. If she says, no, all my friends are losers, then I do what? I go to my colleagues. I go to my business contacts around the community, etc. And I say, keep it on the down low, okay? I don't want a bunch of people knocking my door down trying to find a job. Do you know anybody really, really sharp who could either move up or move sideways from another company and take over this job? How much advertising took place? Zero. So if you want to find those jobs, what's the key?
No people.
Hmm?
No people.
Turn it around. Make sure people know you. Make sure your brand image is first rate and the right people know about it. How do you do that? First thing you do is you clean up your brand image, right? Maybe that's your appearance. Maybe that's the way you speak. Maybe that's the way you comport yourself. Okay? And then you get yourself some exposure. You join volunteer groups, you work with your church, you work with, I don't know, student clubs, professional associations. You get yourself some visibility looking good. Okay? And you meet people, you shake hands, you learn the elevator speech. You ever heard of the elevator speech? What's the elevator speech? You and I get in the elevator together and you recognize that I am, in fact, Bill Gates. And you have 15 or 30 seconds to impress me enough that I would like to keep a conversation going on with you and learn about you. What are you going to say? That's the elevator speech. 15 to 30 seconds to impress somebody enough that they want to know more about you. You learn to do that. Okay? You learn how to start up a conversation. How do you start a conversation? With a stranger. I'll tell you how you don't learn how. You don't learn how by sitting at home playing on the Xbox and sitting on the couch. You don't learn how by taking nothing but online courses. You learn how to socialize with people. There's another article, I think, yeah, I'm sure I just posted it. Here it is. It's called The Missing and Essential Soft Skills. What are the soft skills in a job? Soft skills. What are hard skills? What are soft skills?
The soft skills are learning how to be charismatic and carry a comfortable conversation and get to know people in a personal manner and being helpful and respected.
Good. And the one they start with, which is right down that same lane, the ability to communicate is a soft skill, not a hard skill. What's a hard skill?
Your technical skills, your technical ability,
Yeah.
whether it's academic.
Can you set me up a spreadsheet that does this? Can you keep a set of books? Can you create a Word document with these kind of, lines and dashes and stuff on it? Can you build me a really first-rate PowerPoint or Prezi or whatever? Those are hard skills. Soft skills are hard to define, but you know them when you meet them. So one of the soft skills is, how do you start up a conversation with a total stranger? It takes practice. Practice with a mirror even, okay? Anybody got a good first line opening to introduce yourself to a stranger?
I think more than words, your facial expression says it all. If you're smiling and not like a shut out face, it already opens up room for conversation.
Now, if you can't smile, you're going uphill. Absolutely right.
Asking about them, getting them talking.
Okay. How? Give me an example.
How are you doing this morning? What do you have planned for your day? Things like that, line openers that get them talking, because more than asking someone to listen to you, people are more willing, if
talk
you're
about themselves.
asking, them to talk about themselves.
Mm-hmm. Look at what they're wearing. Anybody see what I'm wearing up here? What is that? Can you tell? It's a fish.
Yeah.
If you know anything about fish, it's a salmon. And in fact, I got it last summer on a trip to Alaska. So how could you start up a conversation? If you know what fish it is, you say, hey, is that a salmon? I got one of those one time when I went to Alaska. Did you go to Alaska recently? And okay, you get it going, You say, hey, the weather sucks today. There's an opener, okay? The weather's pretty terrible today. I sure hope it cools down. Some people are going to look at you and go, yeah, okay. But some people are going to look at you, particularly if you smile, and they're going to say, yeah, the weather's terrible, isn't it? Where are you from? You're from Maine? How long are your summers up in Maine? Because summer down here goes from when? Summer goes from December the 31st until December the 1st. Summer is 11 months long down in Florida. Did you know that? And what are you doing? You're trying to bring a little humor into it, a little easiness, a little joking back and forth, and you get talking. So what are you doing down in Florida? Yeah. No, I'm over here for a conference going to such and such. I had to teach over at Santa Fe College. But never heard of them? I'll tell you about it. Bing, bing, bing. You practice, you practice, you practice. Okay? These are the soft skills. These are part of your personal brand. These are the readings that have nothing to do with microeconomics and everything to do with what are you going to do with what you got. So that's part of what this course is about. Okay? I'm going to stop for a minute. Tell me what you want to talk about. I would like every day to start out with the same question that says, what's on your mind? What do you want to talk about? And we'll talk about anything you want, except maybe religion. We'll talk about that maybe in a generic way. We'll talk about politics, but we won't get in big arguments. We'll just maybe explain what some of the terms are. There's a reading here. It says, a liberal conservative paradigm model. What's the difference between a liberal and a conservative? I want you to read that and tell me next class, okay? And we'll talk about the news and the media. And I want you to bring stuff to class and say, hey, I read it. How many of you can tell me what happened with John McCain? What about him? He passed away. Can you tell me anything else significant about that?
Brain cancer.
He died of brain cancer, a very virulent type.
He led the charge on campaign finance.
Good. He was a big advocate for campaign finance reform.
He specifically said that he didn't want Trump in his funeral.
He said in his directions for his funeral that he wanted George W. Bush and Barack Obama to speak at his funeral and give an eulogy, and specifically did not want President Trump to attend his funeral. He and President Trump were not very close. Good. Anything else about John McCain?
Trump also didn't put any orders for doing the flags for half-mast.
Oh, I didn't hear that one. Okay. So no orders to lower the flags down. I understand it's called half-staff now instead of half-mast, but I always learned at half-mast.
He only tweeted about McCain, but not even about what he had done throughout his years of service, but just that he's sorry about what happened.
Yeah,
So
Trump's tweet was very brief and not very convincing.
Yeah.
Okay. John McCain was a prisoner of war in the Vietnam War, shot down over North Vietnam, imprisoned, tortured, etc. John McCain was kind of a wild card when he was at the Naval Academy, where he didn't perform particularly well, but he went on to become one hell of a pilot and then a politician. Okay?
Wasn't his father a naval commander?
His father was an admiral, yes. And I don't know this, but one suspects that John McCain did not become an admiral because he made a few people angry along the way. He was prone to do that when he thought he was doing the right thing. There were things about John McCain I didn't particularly like, but that didn't diminish my respect for him. Okay, so if you are aware of these things, that's what we want to bring to class too, is an awareness of what's going on around us. I use Flipboard on my phone. It's an app, and it's a news aggregator. It takes news from all kinds of different sources, loads it to my phone, and I read it 2 or 3 times a day and say, what's going on? The neat thing about Flipboard is that you get to choose the topics you're interested in. So I get news on everything from interior decorating and Buddhism and civil rights and fishing to political news, economic news, etc. And it keeps me fairly well informed. The problem with getting a lot of news is that a lot of the news is, what's the word I want?
Oversaturated.
Huh?
Oversaturated.
Oversaturated? I had a stronger term.
Biased.
Nonsense.
Biased.
Biased. And so for that, I give you the media bias chart. I want you to, if nothing else, print this out and keep it with you when you read the news. This shows across the bottom the news media that are liberal and the others that are conservative and the ones that are sort of in the middle. And then as you go up the chart, this is nonsense and trash, less trash but still nonsense, and okay, and then more objective, fact-filled, analytical, etc. And so if you really want to be informed in the news, you focus up here. You see what these news media are. You read a lot of that, but you do not neglect what's being said out here. Okay? That's the nice part about Flipboard as a news aggregator. It takes in news from all kinds of sources. Some of it makes me mad enough to spit, but I still make myself read it. Okay? The other news source I recommend to you is Google News. Just go to Google News. You can set it up like you want to pick the topics of news, and it's an aggregator too. It brings in stuff from everywhere. If you will do that at least once a day over a cup of coffee and become aware of what's going on, a couple of things will accrue from that. One is you'll be able to come to class and get into an intelligent conversation and become more aware of what's going on. And two is the more we know about what's going on around us, the more we will see the opportunities to take advantage of and the dangers to beware of. Okay? Examples as we go along, but we'll see. So this class is both microeconomic theory, all the Connect and Canvas and exams, and reality. What's going on in the world and how do you and I use it to our advantage? Okay? That's where I'm headed. Now, what's on your mind? Anything, questions about the course, life in general?
I have two questions.
Two, okay.
Sorry. What's the difference between micro and macro?
Microeconomics is the study of individuals and businesses as they try to maximize their well-being. Individuals, we say they try to maximize their utility, their happiness. Okay? Businesses, usually, we say, try to maximize their profit. So it's kind of like looking through a microscope at the small parts. Macroeconomics is about the nation, the economy, the society, and what kind of decisions are made there in terms of the allocation of resources and how they decide to use those resources, etc. I think both courses are very useful, but I think you find too often people teach economics because they love economics instead of what it can do for you. Second question.
Sorry. Based on the Jacksonville shooting yesterday, what's your take on now the legislation being more aggressive towards gun control in Florida?
Is everyone aware of what happened in Jacksonville yesterday at the landing? They were having a gaming get-together, whatever you call it, convention. And apparently somebody who lost got angry, from what I hear. Pulled out a gun, shot, killed 2 people, wounded several others, and then killed himself. And when you think about the number of gun shooting, if you will, incidents around the country, it's become epidemic, in my mind. I have to be careful in my position as your instructor that I do not try to influence you in how you should believe or how you should vote. And I will struggle, but try, to give you both sides of every issue I possibly can. The issue right now, as you phrased it, with still one more incident of public shooting like this, where there'll be a more aggressive pursuit of more gun control. This is why, this discussion is why in economics we must necessarily talk politics. Not what's good politics or bad politics, but how is our system designed? We call it the choice system. We claim in this country to have a representative democracy, that we all get to vote for our representatives who then go to Congress and make policy decisions. The fallacy behind that representative democracy that has only arisen noticeably to the American public, probably in the last 20 years, is the amount of money that goes into politics to influence opinion. Oh, and maybe whether or not Russia is influencing our politics, right? That's the Mueller investigation that's going on right now. When we look at representative democracy, we see that the representatives who make policy in Congress need money in order to conduct their campaigns and continue in office. And we see that they respond to money. And so there is a claim on the left by the liberals that the National Rifle Association and other pro-gun sponsors are putting a lot of money into Congress to hold back any kind of gun control. To the degree that that is true, I'm not ready to comment, okay? But the anti-gun, or if you will, the gun control element, mostly on the liberal side, is building more and more fuel with every incident. And this is just one more log on the fire. The fire is going to burn hotter. And so your question is sort of like, is Congress or the state legislature going to do anything to impose greater control over guns? My subjective personal opinion is not yet. What I have seen in the United States and the way our leaders and politics and people at large behave is they don't change until it gets really, really, really bad. To give you as an example, World War II. World War II started in China in 1937. It started in Europe in 1939. And what was the United States position about World War II?
Stay down.
Not my fight. Y'all go at it, but I ain't I'm not fighting that one. What finally got us in?
Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor. The bombing, surprise bombing by the Japanese when we finally reacted. But prior to that, we were building up our military, but slowly, grudgingly, and there was an awful lot of sympathy that said, we don't want to fight. We don't want to get into war. We don't do much at all, kind of like you and me as individuals, by the way. We tend to maintain our homeostasis, right? Or go along, get along, don't rock the boat until it gets really bad. I think that's one more log on the fire. I don't think we're there yet. I don't know what it will take to get there, and I don't know the form it will take when it happens. But we will see. I will say this.
It's getting closer, though.
I'm sorry?
It's getting closer.
Absolutely. Whatever it is. What's a baby boomer? Flag.
Children that came from World War II, veterans, young couples.
Yeah, following World War II, a lot of men got out of the military, got married, had babies. There was a boom of babies called the baby boom. These are people born between 1946 and 1964, which means that today they're somewhere between about 54 and 72 years old. There's a bunch of us, okay? We have, as voters, being such a large bloc, we have driven a lot of the policy of the United States since World War II, which ended in 45. We are dying off, slowly, grudgingly. A lot of us, I will exclude myself from that, but a lot of the boomers got wiped out financially in 2008 and 2009 by the Great Recession. And so they can't retire. They can't afford to. They're continuing to work, and they're going to be a thorn in your side because until they retire, those jobs don't open up for you to get promoted. Okay? Keep the faith. We'll die sooner or later. Okay? That traditionally has been the biggest population bulge in the United States, but it is no longer the largest population bulge. Who's the largest group of people in the United States today, population-wise?
Millennials?
I'm looking at them. Millennials. The millennials outnumber the boomers. How old is a millennial?
Early 20s?
I'm going to guess, more or less, that millennials are about 18 to 35 years old, something like that. Okay? You outnumber us. Your voting behavior, I'm back to your original point, your voting behavior is going to influence the direction of this country for the next 20 years. Does that cheer you up or depress you? I would tell you, and now I'm going to go back to media, I would tell you that the average American out there today knows almost nothing about civics and government, about the way our country runs, about economics. When you have a country of ignorant voters, you can expect ignorant policies. So I am very much hopeful that your generation will awaken to that fact and start becoming better informed. And we'll try our own little mini version of it by our classroom discussions. Okay? Good. What else on your mind? Yes, ma'am?
PBS ran an interesting documentary on antibiotic-resistant bacteria in our food supply, and how 23,000 people actually died from it last year, more than breast cancer, car accident, gunshots, and people are completely like unfazed by it and not realizing what a critical issue it really is.
I agree. We don't respond until it gets really bad.
Yeah, but that one is people still, and that was one of the biggest points they made. They were like, all these things that people are so concerned about, hyped up about, and they're completely overlooking the fact that we are soon, they're not even making new antibiotics. They're so worried about pumping out what they've got going out that their focus is not on cue. And if we do not respond to that, we're going to go back to the time before antibiotics. So it's something that's coming that.
It's a real problem. Well, you know, my solution is teach your kids to eat dirt. Go up there and news.
But it does affect the economy because it's talking about our food chain and all the farmers and everything else. I think it said there's like 9 billion animals that are slaughtered for consumption, and vegetarians think that they are not a part of this cycle, but because they take the manure and spread it out, it affects our crops and also gets in our water supply. So
it's going to come back.
It's affecting a lot of different economy issues.
Be aware of what's going on. I've just given you today's quiz. Has 7 questions on it. I want you to imagine how you would do on this quiz if you had to take it right now. What are the 5 forces that shift the demand curve? Anybody here have a clue what that is? 2. You happen to do the PowerPoints or something? Good. If you did if you were here Wednesday, or you read what I have posted on Canvas, you looked at the PowerPoints and you say, oh, I may not remember it, but I've seen it. Well, hell, that's progress, right? There are 5 forces that shift a demand curve. There are 5 forces that shift a supply curve. There is a difference in the terminology demand and quantity demanded. They're 2 different things. These things you must know this week, preferably tomorrow, okay? Today would be better. Wednesday at the very least, okay? This quiz is meant to give you a sense of what you should have known beginning this week as a result of all those assignments for this week. That you should be able to sit down and take this quiz and know the answers. That's how I want you to prepare for class. Let me make it clear what class is about. In economics, we have something called the principle of exchange. It's going to sound kind of common sense, but it's profound when you think about it. Imagine I've got $100 and you've got a lawnmower. And I buy your lawnmower. I give you $100. You give me the lawnmower. Are you better off? Demonstrably so. You were willing to give up the lawnmower because you valued the $100 more. You're better off. Am I better off?
Yes.
Absolutely. I value the lawnmower more than I did the $100. Bingo. We're both better off. Okay, so far. Nothing really earth-shattering there, okay? But what has got to happen for exchange to occur? Both parties have to feel like they are getting more than they are giving. You understand that? Think about that in a relationship. You and your spouse, or boyfriend or girlfriend. If that person doesn't feel like he or she is getting more than they're having to put into this relationship, what's going to happen to that relationship? They're going somewhere else. That's the fundamental truth of relationships, whether it's a business relationship, a romantic relationship, or a classroom relationship, okay? What does that really mean? For me, it means this. When I come to this classroom, I've got to come in with enough stuff for you to feel like you're getting more than you're giving by coming to class. What did you have to give to come to class today? What did it cost you? Not just financial. Time. What do you mean by time?
You have to reorganize your schedule in your life to make time to be here.
Yeah, and we talk about it as an opportunity cost. What else could you have been doing if you didn't come to class today? Sleeping, working, okay. What else does it cost you to come to class? You have to sit here for an hour and 15 minutes and listen to me. I know, that's a cost. What else? You have to fight with traffic and parking. That's a hassle, that's a cost. And pay, gasoline or whatever other cost. Other costs of coming to class? I don't know. Yeah.
Supplies, materials.
Okay, the materials, the damn tuition and the book and all that, yeah, okay. So what do I got to do? Knowing that this is what you are paying, what you are giving up to come to class, my job is to come to class and bring you enough stuff to make it worthwhile, to make the benefits of coming to class more than the costs. Agreed? If I do my job, you'll come to class, right? What have you got to do to make me want to come to class? Because technically, by the way, a hybrid class legally only has to meet one time in the term. I could turn around tomorrow and say, we're not meeting anymore. What have you got to do to make me want to come to class and engage in this exchange? Show up on time, because if you come in late, you disturb everybody. You can't come in here and sneak in the back. I wish you could. What else have you got to do? Be informed, prepared, and ready to engage. That shows interest. Not come to class unprepared and try to sit back in the back and pretend that nobody can see you. Doesn't work, okay? If you will come engaged and we will have this conversation, I will be a happy camper. That's why I teach. Because I love the interaction. I love watching people's faces go, what does that mean? What does that mean?
They just learned something.
Yeah, it's called the aha. Aha, I understand. Unless you're from Georgia. What's it mean in Georgia? Oh, damn. Same thing, I love watching that happen. I love people talking about, well, I don't know whether to go here or go to here when I finish my AA degree. We talk about it and they say, damn, I'll go check that out. They've got a better direction in their life. Or they're sitting here talking about, I don't know whether I want to major in this or major in that. We talk about it and then they make a better decision. That's how I get joy in my life, is watching students make better decisions and lead better lives. That's what makes me want to come to class. What does not make me want to come to class is to come in here with a group of anywhere from 6 to 50 people who don't give a damn and aren't prepared and have nothing to contribute. Okay? So if you want to make this a good class, remember, I'll try and do my part, you try and do your part. Let's come in here just like we were all going to breakfast together. We're all going to sit around a little table, we're going to have a little coffee, and we're going to talk about what's going on. Right? That's cool. If you will do this work, I'll tell you what happens in this course. If you do the work like I've asked you to do on the schedule, here's the way grades come out in this course. You familiar with a bell curve? We did this the other day. A bell curve means what? This is A, B, C, D, F, and this is the number of students. Do you see that okay? That's not a really good pen. What's that bell curve telling you?
Most students got a C.
Most students got a C, and if there were 3 A's, there were also 3 F's. And if there were 7 B's, there were 7 D's. And there were 22 that made a C. That's a bell curve. Do you think classes have grade distributions like that? Some do. Not many. But I want to tell you how mine look like. They don't look like that. When I look at the number of students enrolled, I have 54 students in micro this term. This is how the grades will turn out. What does that mean?
A lot of F's. People pass or fail.
I'll have a lot of F's and W's, and I'll have a lot of A's and B's. I won't have many C's, and in fact, I won't have many D's. Why do you suppose that is?
It's either you do the work or not.
It's a very clear line. The people that do the work do okay. They make a B in the course. They do okay on the exams, okay? And the people that don't do any work don't have a chance. Now, there are exceptions. Once in a while, I find a student that's really, really working hard and just struggling. And I'll give that person as much extra attention as I can, and we'll work on that. But as a general rule, after an exam, when I look at the low scores, I go back and look at Connect. And 95% of the people who got low scores, guess what? Instead of doing 6 quizzes for each chapter, they did maybe 1. Maybe they did 2, but they did them the night before the exam. When they took a 40-question exam, they finished 40 questions in 7 minutes and 30 seconds, which meant they were just guessing their ass off, okay? So it's a clear line between those that do and succeed and those that don't and don't.
So are the exams online? Or?
The exams are all online. You'll take them at the big open lab. If you have to take them on a weekend, you'll take them in the library. They'll be supervised. You simply show up, you'll open up your Connect, which will have the exam. You'll open the exam, and then the proctor will put in the password, and you take it. Okay? Pretty straightforward. You want to be careful. You don't want to, the exams typically go from Thursday till Tuesday. Take it anytime you want. If you wait till Tuesday night to go take an exam, one of 2 things will probably happen. Either the computers will shut down and you're screwed, or the computers will all be busy and there won't be an empty one, and you're screwed. Because I'm sorry, if you wait till the last minute and then you can't take it, not on me, on you. 0, okay? So don't wait till the last minute. Go ahead and take it. All right? What else on your mind? Anybody? Would you start me a roster and pass it around? Just start a blank sheet of paper for a roster. Can you do the same thing on that side of the room? I will take attendance. If you are signed up for the Monday class and you can't make it, but you show up on Wednesday, you'll get credit for attendance that week. If you have more than 3 absences, it will adversely impact your grade. Okay? So attendance is mandatory. What else? What are you thinking about so far? Yes, ma'am. You just about used your quote up. Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
What's your opinion why the millennials are not so influenced by politics and the news, and what's really important to economics?
Well, the first part of it is because they're young. What do we know when we're young? Young, what does young mean, by the way?
They feel like it doesn't affect them. Like, I feel like most of this people are my age or our age, they don't care because they, up to a certain point, they don't feel like they're being directly affected. Mm-hmm. And they just think like, oh, you know, I'll learn about it like later when, you know, I get a good job or when I need to know about it.
I love your answer. What I see is a lot of, this isn't important now. When it's important, I'll pay attention. When it's important, I'll do a lot of work. When it's important, I'll clean up my brand image. When it's important, I got to tell you, you don't learn like that. If you start practicing now, you're already doing it by the time it really matters. Second thing, when you are young, and by young, I'm going to say at least up to 25 years old for most people. When you're young, you feel like you're bulletproof and you're invisible. Nothing's going to hurt you. Nothing's going to affect you. And you're not aware of what's going on. And you don't need to be because you don't think it has any impact on you, any effect. I think another thing that's going on is that what happens when you walk into a restaurant? What are people doing at the tables? They're on their phone, okay? And sometimes they're texting to each other, okay? Give me a break. They literally do not raise their head up and look around and see what's going on in the world because it is too easy to be distracted by something that takes no mental effort at all. That's another reason that, you know, even for me to stand in here and try to do an hour and 15 minutes, that's more attention span than most students are capable of doing. I have to literally work on being a performer in order to keep my class's attention. Okay? And you all know classes where they don't do much performance. and you get bored silly. So I think you got all those things going on. You got a technological distraction. You've got an environment that encourages that, and you've got youth. The sooner people grow up, the sooner they take control of their lives, the better they do. I know my wife's ex-husband. Someday I'll tell you the story of my wife and I. I didn't marry her till I was in my 50s. But she had been my neighbor back in 1978, she and her husband. Her ex-husband and I were old fishing buddies. He's my age. But he's made some poor decisions. And it is evident both in his physical health and his general well-being. A lot of folks just don't grow up very soon. I was reading an article on Flipboard just before class. It's called Adulting. Are you familiar with that? What is that? Adulting. Practicing to be or behaving to be an adult. I never heard of that term until the last year or so. What the hell is that about? When I grew up, 18, you were, quote, an adult, right? Well, we knew some people who were 18 and 20 who were still screwed up, right? But most people, by the time they were 20, 23, 24, okay. Today I see a lot of folks who are able to delay that, and I think there's a lot of that going on. And those people will be children, if you will, not adults, until they're in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. And by that time it'll be so late, they won't be able to do much to improve their well-being. So I see a lot of that going on. I ask myself, why do I see this performance? What's going on with this group of people? I see the students often overload themselves with too many courses and too many hours at work. They overestimate themselves. I see a lot of them have never grown up in an environment where you had to be accountable for what you do. I mean, do you grow up these days with a list of chores that you have to do in your family? I don't know. Doesn't seem like it for a lot of students. That there is no growing responsibility as you go from 8 years old to 16 years old. And that's foreign to me. I don't understand that. How many of you worked as teenagers before you got out of high school? What kind of jobs did you have?
Bad jobs.
Huh?
Bad jobs.
What kind of bad job?
Fast food.
Fast food.
Fast food? Mm-hmm. Anything else? Everybody here just work fast food? Is that pretty much it?
Retail.
Retail? How was retail?
A lot of customer service.
Say again?
A lot of customer oriented.
Is that good or bad?
Depends on how the customers are.
When I was 14, I had a paper route. I had about 12 yards that I cut. And then when I was 15, I got a guitar and started playing in a band. I played in a band all the way through high school. I always had more money than any kid my age. And I never thought about it. That was just, you took advantage of opportunities when they came along. I don't see that kind of drive, and I don't know, but maybe there's not that kind of opportunity anymore out there. And that concerns me about today's generation. When was World War I? WAG is allowed. Do you think I fought in World War I?
No.
No? Okay.
Wasn't the 20s?
Close. 1914 to 1918.
No.
Okay? In 1917, the United States finally got into it. I'm reading about a lot of stuff about World War I. I look at the faces of the young men and the young women in 1910, 1912, before the war began, in Europe and in America. And they are young and innocent, and they are caught up in stupidities like women are going out in public with their hair cut short and their dresses rising. Totally irresponsible, okay? Women are smoking in public. Can you imagine that? In public, women are smoking. I mean, everything about the fabric of our society was going straight to hell. And you had these young, innocent, stupid people who couldn't care less. And innocent is the word. Until I see the pictures, particularly of the men, because they were the ones that went to war. And if you had judged those young men in 1910 and said, these are going to be soldiers who are going to fight for this country, you'd have said, oh, we're in deep shit. These people can't do it. And if you looked at the young men in 1935, my father finished high school in 1935 in Jacksonville. And if you looked at the pictures of the young men in the 1930s, even in the Depression, they were young and they were innocent and they were just not going to make it. And they're the same soldiers who went into World War II and fought in the Pacific and in Europe and won the war. And had you thought about that in 1935 and looked at those young men, you'd have said, if we get in a war, we're going to get our ass kicked. And so I look around today and I see a lot of people that to me are struggling, and they lack a work ethic. They didn't learn a hell of a lot in high school. They have trouble writing and reading. They have no sense of maturity and organization and responsibility. And I think, we're in trouble. And then I realize we've done that with every generation. It's that younger generation that is so worthless. And yet they continually surprise us. And so I hold out hope for the future. But I will tell you this. You get through this course, you're on track to be in that upper part of that generation who will have choices and freedoms and better lives. But you will always have a part of society that is not productive, that has no work ethic, and you're going to have to figure out what to do with them. That at the end of your life and mine, we're going to be judged as either having been a producer for this country, who served, who worked, who paid taxes, who volunteered, a producer, or at the end of your life on balance, you're going to be a parasite. One who took more, far more, than you ever contributed. And in the end, we are all either a producer or a parasite. And if you want a better future, it's not enough just to be a producer yourself. You've got to figure out some way to take those folks who tend towards the parasitic level and make them productive. Otherwise, you're going to be carrying that weight with you. And I see that as a growing problem in this country. Okay? Anything else on your mind? You have rosters? Good. You drop those off on the way out. I'll see you Wednesday, I hope. If not, if you show up Monday, please say hello to the rest of the class, because I'm going to be gone for Labor Day. Okay? You be by your damn self. Bye.